Hello everyone, this is Tawseek Haider with Voices of Resilience. This is a series of podcasts by NDRMF, and in our previous podcast, Bilal Anwar, who is the CEO of NDRMF, he told us about the evolution of this organization and how did it come up and what is it doing in Pakistan when it comes to disaster resilience, disaster risk reduction and all of that. And if you remember, he mentioned Asian Development Bank. Asian Development Bank, ADB, has been really very instrumental in coming up with the idea of this fund. And also, still ADB is standing hand in hand with NDRMF in its future endeavors. So I and NDRMF thought that we should introduce you to the people behind Asian Development Bank and who are standing hand in hand with NDRMF. So today, of course, Bilal Anwar Saab, who is the CEO of NDRMF, is with us. Assalamu alaikum, Bilal Saab.
Assalamu alaikum, very good morning.
Good morning to you as well. But I'm not sure if you're watching this at night or in the morning, but if it's at night, good evening or good night, or maybe before we say good night to you, let me introduce you to some very interesting brain thought managers from Asian Development Bank, who is the country director in Pakistan of ADB, Mr. Yong.
Hi.
Hi. Should I say good morning or good evening?
Good day and good night.
Good day and good night. Thank you for taking out time for this podcast. Bilal Saab, in the last podcast you mentioned and you were really all praised for ADB. Tell us a little more about that. How did this idea come up? Did it come from ADB or was that NDRMF and ADB came in as a support? How did this happen?
Well, I think it must have been a very collective wisdom from the government of Pakistan as well as the Asian Development Bank. But I want to take an opportunity just to mention that whoever the people were behind it and the institutions behind, they were really the visionary people, because if I contextualize it in the Pakistan's climatic and disaster challenges, we always know that there are disasters, and after every disaster there is a kind of a set of measures and set of activities are triggered. But then there was a point in time when ADB and the government of Pakistan actually took a step back and they thought that, okay, but this is fine, but we have to look more proactively. And disaster risk reduction is the new science, and that science has to be instituted in Pakistan. So ADB came forward with the technical and the financial support. The government of Pakistan responded equally, and then that basically resulted into existence of a National Disaster Risk Management Fund.
Is this the dream which is coming true?
Yes, okay. I'm very proud that ADB has made such a setup in the country. And indeed, as Bilal said, the Pakistan is so prone to the disasters, right? I remember, for example, the 2010, 2014 had the flood here. So seeing this issue every time after flood, they also takes much time to do the assessment, preparation, and response. So ADB has thinking to mitigate the risk. So therefore, we come up with the idea to help the country to create this NDRMF. Two purposes. One is very much try to do the upfront risk mitigation. Another one is also improve the preparedness for the disaster. So therefore, we can be much quicker responding to the flood disasters if it happens.
Now the COP28 is around the corner, happening in Dubai. What two major advices would you want to give to NDRMF or the government of Pakistan? What should be Pakistan's approach when we go and enter COP28 in a couple of months now?
Yeah, I would start to say that the climate change issue is not any single developing country can cope with. So need collaboration. So in that sense, international community need to come up to provide their support in this regard. I'm pleased to know that this Loss and Damage Fund was set up in COP27. While we still have some way to go, some work to do to eventually get the pledges and contribution into this fund. But I would like to say for Pakistan, being very vulnerable to the disaster and being a developing country facing a lot of economic challenges, it is important for the country to really develop certain institutional mechanism, build its capacity, and identify leading agency to undertake the preparatory work to capital on these funds. Okay, so in this sense, I would say the NDRMF, they have gone through a process. They implemented the first phase of our project in all the vulnerable regions in Pakistan. So they have created certain institutional capacity, set up accountability mechanism, and also their own system and procedures. I know, it's not ideal, not perfect compared with our expectation, but I'm pleased to note that the NDRMF has initiated quite some reform and also streamlined its own business process as well. So I take that as a very positive thing. So what I want to say is that all this make the NDRMF very advantageous position in supporting the country to deal with the challenges of climate change, to mainstream the climate change consideration into the overall development process in the country, and also to help the country to tap on the potential from the lost and damaged funds.
What kind of, Bilal Saab, what kind of support is ADB giving to NDRMF when you plan with your team and of course with Governor Pakistan to go to COP28?
Yeah, we are working very closely because ADB have this huge kind of a leverage in the region as well as globally as well. All the multilateral development banks, they work very closely with each other, and this is a huge advantage which actually NDRMF enjoys, having a very close collaboration with ADB. So as Mr. Yongji mentioned, COP28 is a transformational movement in the kind of a history and evolution of international climate policy development process. A number of key decisions are going to be made, but Pakistan can only benefit if there is a level of preparation at home, and that preparation requires institutional mechanism, that requires a policy framework. And this is what NDRMF and ADB is actually working very closely with each other, and also with the relevant ministries, Ministry of Climate Change, Ministry of Planning Development, Special Initiatives, a number of other national institutions as well. So we actually coming up with a very coherent and a combined approach, and in terms of what kind of international support we need from the international community for our climate action, what is the financing. And we want investments. I mean, not only the loans and all kind of financing, but I think the concessional financing is very, very important in this whole process. And we also need technology transfer. And this has been a kind of a missing link for a very long period of time.
Because when we talk of support, the only word comes to my mind is money, financial support. But you're absolutely right. Technical support, technological support is also very, very important.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, what I personally believe that the great breakthroughs in dealing with the disasters, disaster control, disaster risk reduction, climate action, adaptation, mitigation, that is going to be originating out of tech solutions. And I think that's where we need support from international community, and we're working with ADB on these fronts as well. And I think that's what we need, and that's why we are very much excited to go to the COP in a much more preparatory mode and benefit to the extent possible.
Mr. Yongji, what do you think? Like you have a very, very international vision and perspective towards the issue. Do you think at COP28 it's going to be a difficult case for Pakistan to present, or it's going to be a very easy case to present?
Well, I would think Pakistan has a lot to present. Okay, in terms of the country's vulnerability, in terms of the efforts the country has been made towards building the resilience. The country has really done a great job from this response to the 2022 flood with very good international cooperation. Then COP is a good place to discuss all the climate change issues and also resilience issue as well. ADB, for sure, will be partnered with Pakistan, as we always do. I want to highlight also, in this regard, ADB places climate change at the center of its operation. We have already been advised the country, just now I mentioned about mainstreaming the climate consideration, disaster reduction into the overall development process. And this requires quite a few changes. It's not easy to say that.
For example, what changes?
For example, you need policy changes, you need institutional strengthening, coordination, you need the technical support, you mentioned just now, but also the financial support. Mm-hmm. There are other things that the country can present, both in terms of your efforts and also the challenge you are facing, and also in addition, what kind of support, partnership you need with all the international communities, right? Yeah. While ADB has been somehow, as I said, pretty active in engaging with the country in achieving those transformation or the changes, for example, ADB has come up with some additional financing from its own resources, but also from the innovative solutions. For example, you have heard maybe the ETM, Energy Transition Mechanism. We're also announcing our annual meeting, the IFCAP, the Innovative Financing for Climate in Asia and Pacific, IFCAP. All of this is trying to generate some leverage and bring some solution, both in terms of the knowledge, technical advisory, and also financing to the region for the climate actions and also disaster risk reduction. ADB has an ambition to really provide $100 billion climate finance from its own resources by 2030. So that shows our commitment to the climate change. So with all this kind of a good match about what Pakistan is looking for and what ADB is focusing on, I think this partnership can really generate fruit. Similarly, and the COP27 or 28. We are putting dedicated pavilions. That one is dedicated for ADB, and also another one jointly with other MDBs. We would welcome all the DMCs, including Pakistan, to really take this facility to show the world that what the challenges you are facing, what the vulnerability the country is suffering, and also what are the efforts you have made to build your resilience in responding to the climate finance or climate change.
Yeah. Just to add, I think it's a very valid and interesting point. That's one of the reasons that NDRMF is actually working very closely because NDRMF is passing through its own kind of a transformation as well, and we want to really present ourselves and position ourselves to all these innovative solutions, and that's what Pakistan needs, because the challenges are really huge and in nature. They are very complex as well, and we need a very new and very different kind of approach. So NDRMF actually, we are working our own way and coming up with as a smart organization and supporting those entrepreneurs, those students, academia, and other stakeholders who are actually trying their hands and experimenting with innovative solutions. And there's so many mechanisms, so many funding mechanisms which ADB is coming up, and that can be wonderful support for all these innovative solutions which are being experimented in Pakistan.
All right. Now, when I read about climate-related disasters and the mitigation side and financing side, I have an opinion that usually people talk about that the priorities of a country like Pakistan are sometimes donor-driven. So the climate disaster mitigation and disaster risk reduction agenda is driven by the donors, be it ADB or be it any other. What is your take, Bilal, on this, that in meetings and final resolutions and discussions and decision making, is this approach, do you think it's always donor driven, or does countries like Pakistan and people like you have a say in that?
I think it's a bit of exaggeration, and even for the sake of argument, if we say that it is donor driven, the donors still exist in a very similar kind of space, international space as well. If we look into the challenges, look at the problems which any country like Pakistan is facing, they are very valid and timely kind of issues which the donors are trying to address. Now, I think the donors are actually taking a further step, and they are assisting the government agencies, kind of setting their priorities as well. I know ADB, I know World Bank and several others, they have this very specific technical assistance, and which is actually provided and extended to the different ministries, even to NDRMF as well, and which basically allow them to determine their priorities, and then the financing is aligned based on the priorities as well. So if you see, the climate change is a real challenge. Whoever is coming up and whoever is trying to help Pakistan or the disaster or even education and health and several others, they are real challenges. No one can deny about it. So I think I'm sure Mr. Yong has his own take on it as well.
You know, maybe I can also take this opportunity to clarify. For sure, our value, our regulation made ADB, or I understand also World Bank, other development agencies the same. We must be demand driven. We cannot be supply driven or the donor driven. That's really the first point. But why sometimes we have been seen by people as, well, looks like a bit more donor driven. I think the issue is that as part of our advisory services, we have to tell the government something, or the public in the developing countries, something they didn't realize, they didn't know. So therefore, there's a bit more advanced. In your sense, people may not realize it, but time will prove that whatever ADB or other development partners are advising are important for the country, although it's a bit advanced, but that's really the value we bring to the country. So I would say, for sure, I think I was told by my management, we have to respect what they demand, we have to identify demand, we have to make our operation responding to the demand of the country, but at the same time, as part of our value addition, we need to advise the government something they didn't realize. So that, for example, just now you get a good example about the climate change. I think even I gone through this process. Initially, I was thinking, okay, climate change is really some theoretical debate between the professors. But over time, you can see those. You know, when you talk about this, you probably more think about the donor driven. I mean, I switched my position more into the climate kind of focused advocator. It's really, I have seen over time, the evidence has become very true. You know, last year there's flood. You look at the extreme heat that's hitting the globe. This year, you know, Asia, many countries have, in China, also you can super hot season, summer, this time. So yes, you can see the issue of climate change. So climate change impact, not something in the future, it's right now. It's everyone feels it. So I think that's really good example about, you know, it sometimes takes a while for people to really realize the issue they are facing.
All right, Mr. Yong and Mr. Bilal Anwar, thank you very much for taking out time. And well, this is the purpose of this podcast. And when we say voices of resilience, we all are voices of resilience. And on behalf of the people of Pakistan, thank you very much for supporting NDRMF. And as you said, it's not always the financial support, it's the technical expertise, the value that you bring on the table when it comes to organizations like NDRMF. Bilal Sab, thank you very much. All the best. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any comments or questions to Bilal and his team, to Mr. Yong and his team, please put your comments down under, or you can inbox us and we'll be very happy to come up with answers. Or if you have any suggestions and you are from the same fraternity, please feel free to contribute in this endeavor. Take good care. Bye-bye.